I bet you didn't know this would take you to, leading a music school. That
Well,
wasn't what your intention was in the
I,
very, very beginning, right?
I'll say this to scare people, and this is kind of where I'm at 42. I did, but I underestimated it drastically.
Okay.
And that's my warning
Oh.
to myself and all my students is congratulations. You know what you want, but you're underestimating it.
Mm.
It's okay.
Like we limit ourselves, kind of. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What you think you're worthy of, that is what you will get, and not $1, not one student, not one gig higher. That's just the way it works, man.
That
Or
resonates with me totally. I didn't think I could build a
yeah,
whole practice off of, people not knowing what they wanted to do
yeah.
with their life. But I mean, here I am.
And
Like,
I don't want to shift here, but I
yeah.
don't care what profession you're in. I think you establish your pay rate.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially. Now things inform that, but then you decide.
Sure.
Okay, cool. And that's why, I like to mentor my teachers and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, are you worth $200 a lesson?" And they go, "No." I go, "Well, there you go." And they're like, "Oh." I was like, "Could you be someday?" "Probably not." "Okay, well, there you go." I mean,
Oh
there are people
man.
out there who
Yeah.
want to take from Beyonce's voice teacher, and they will. I'm just saying, like,
Correct. Correct.
but
But you have to, yeah, I get what you're saying. You have to have that vision
yeah, and so
and
I
that
just think about
belief
right, I'm
because
excited
no
that
one else is going to do it for you.
and so as I'm driving my kids to school, I think about and I'll kinda turn this in on the next thing I wanna tell 'cause
Mhm.
I'm gonna be a little for our parents out here, and I just want everybody to know, my mom and I are good. So we're good now. But just so I can just sort of put a couple cards on the table to help invite everybody into this conversation, whether you're a student or a parent. My mom's dialogue for me for a very short time, and she has made so many wonderful, loving efforts to correct it. And they're so supportive and proud of me and all this stuff, even though she doesn't come to my gigs because she says some of my songs are too sad.
Oh.
It's okay, Bonnie. It's fine. There was a small time where the message was if you become a musician, you'll be poor and then your wife will leave you.
Mm.
Like that was told to me. So, as a young man whose father is a doctor, I go, well, clearly there's two options here. Music, which really it's passion leads to music, leads to
Yeah.
poverty, leads to divorce. She
Right.
didn't mean to say that.
Right.
She probably said that one night when she was washing her
And a
dishes
very trusted individual. Yeah.
and
That's
she was
totally
stressed out and the dog was
sure.
I don't know. Mom, she loved me. Michael, please,
Sure.
that's my first name, Michael. Michael, if you're going to be a musician, you never know. You could be poor and your wife's going to leave you and you hold on. But that's stuck in my head versus then I look
Yeah.
at my dad and I go, well, he's a doctor. But they had their rough times,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure.
right?
Right. It came out of a place of love, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
didn't
they
feel
had their
very.
times. I saw it, versus I meet my wife, Sarah, and she's like, where is this coming from at so many points in our marriage where she's like, well,
Mm.
you're going to travel? It's like, yeah, that's going to make you want. So again, I don't want a free counseling
Yeah.
session,
Yeah.
but what I realized was the driving force, and this is what I'm trying to volley over the net so that you can begin to speak in your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, one of my purposes is make your family not hate you. What?
Gotcha.
Like, as long as I can do music and my family doesn't hate me, then it's going to be. So I think what I'm trying to say is parents
Ah.
out there, I own this place and even I had to sort through this jungle of stuff. This is
Mm.
a good thing for us as parents or kids, to begin to go, what is the dialogue that's happening? And
Yes.
so, Haley, can you kind of, speak
Yeah.
to that a little bit? And
Yes. So a
yeah.
lot in my work, we get down to the nitty gritty of how do I talk to myself? Self-talk really, really matters. Um, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a very well-known therapy for not module therapy technique that talks about our thoughts influence our feelings, which influences our behaviors. And so, a lot of times we get these thoughts from these places, right? From parents or just from failures growing up, where we make this, this kind of rash decision or judgment. And then we carry along this judgment. With my clients, it's like thinking about it's just in your backpack, just coming along with you, and you don't even realize it's there. Kind of like that undertone, like that elevator music that you've tuned out for so long. You don't even know it's there until you get into these sticky situations, like we're talking about, and it comes up to a head. And so that's one of the things that I work on. And that's one of the things that a lot of therapists works on with people is, what am I believing about myself, right? Because what I say about myself is in turn what I believe about myself, or what I believe is going to happen. And I have to rectify that. I have to come about with that and say, is that really, really what I think, right? But we're operating out of it at an unconscious level so much of the time. And that's one of the hard pieces about it. And that's, I think, the beautiful intersection when I get to meet people, is that they know that something's wrong. Or a lot of times it's, I just don't feel like myself anymore, is what I hear a lot of, right? And they know that something's wrong, but they just can't quite put their finger on it. And that's when, I feel like we're like a sleuth together of trying to figure out what's going on in their life. And yes, is it hard situations and transitions and death and things like that? Yes. But a lot of it is how they're treating themselves. And one of the biggest therapy movements that I love right now, her name's Kristen Neff, also out of UT Austin,
Cool.
but she's kind of the guru of the self-compassion movement. And I was going to say, if we didn't get to talk about this, if there's any tips that I can give to parents, it would really be treating themselves very kindly. Because like what you said with your mother, that most likely was coming out of a place of love, even though it didn't
Totally.
sound very loving in the moment. She was trying to protect you in some way, right?
Protection.
But
right.
But if parents can love themselves really well, and what I mean by self-compassion is you give grace and you give kindness to yourself like you would to a best friend. So you start talking to yourself in a different way. I start talking to myself like I would my best friend, not myself, right? You almost envision like, how would so-and-so talk to me? And then you say that thing to yourself. So she could have in turn been like, man, I'm just really overwhelmed, and there's a lot going on, and I'm scared. I'm scared about what Michael's going to get himself into. But may I be kind to myself, because it's difficult parenting such a creative child, and I don't know, how it's going to work out for him. I don't know that pathway. That's really hard. That's really difficult. May I be kind to myself. May I show myself compassion. May I love myself through this. And like self-soothe themselves, almost like they're mothering themselves in a way, they're soothing themselves. Very much easier said than done. Self-compassion, some people just say, oh, it's letting yourself off the hook. It's not. Really loving yourself well is very, very hard.
Yes, I totally agree. And for musicians out there, all that time when you hear your voice recorded for the first time and you hate yourself, that's what she's talking about. We all love your voice. Everyone's fine. It goes out of tune. Stop hating the way
we're our
you
worst
sound.
critic.
Right. It's awful.
Definitely.
But it's really a challenge, and it's part of it.
And you're not alone. I think everyone thinks that everyone that the spotlight is on them, right? It's this. It's a developmental phase during adolescence, right? That we think we're on a stage, but everybody really is worried about their own stuff. Everyone is looking at their own stuff. They're not looking at you. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not forming all these judgments. And if they are, to heck with them,
right.
to those people. But the majority of people really are worried about their own junk.